Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake and I am here outside of Palm Springs, California with the all-new 2023 Kia Sportage. This is their longest running nameplate here in the United States, and this is the all-new 5th generation model. This is a very important product to them, not only for the sake of it being important for Kia, but competing in a very crowded segment. This car competes against things like the Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, and the Hyundai Tucson. So we are here outside Palm Springs. Let's talk about what this Kia Sportage is, what makes it different for 2023, and then we will actually get to take one of these in particular off-roading a little bit. So first of all, what is the 2023 Kia Sportage? Well, first of all, this is on a new platform. It is called the N3 platform, and it is shared with the slightly larger Kia Sorento. So if you've seen the Sorento, this is on the same platform. This is bigger than the outgoing Sportage. However, it is not as big as the Sorento. It's on that same platform, but the Sorento is going to be your larger, slightly wider 3-row vehicle. This is still a 2-row SUV, so you're only going to seat 5 people. It is bigger than the outgoing Sportage. They did that because there is the Kia Seltos below this now in the lineup that came out a couple years ago. So they wanted to kind of fit another size segment there, and this slips in between the Seltos and the Sorento. So it is about 7 inches longer. It is a little bit wider, a little bit taller. The wheelbase is also stretched by about 3 inches over the outgoing model, and that all combines, Kia says, to give you best-in-class cargo space. You've got almost 40 cubic feet back there, and you've got really good second row legroom. They added some legroom back there as well. So that is what they've done differently over the outgoing model. And now let's talk drivetrains. So drivetrain wise, thankfully Kia keeps it fairly simple. You only have 2 options right now. They will be adding a third later on this year, but right now the 2023 Sportage offers both a naturally aspirated gasoline only drivetrain, or you can have a regular hybrid. That is not a plug-in hybrid. The plug-in hybrid is coming later this year, but today we are only sampling the naturally aspirated 2.5 and the hybrid. We'll get into the hybrid in just a second, but this Sportage in particular is a fully loaded X-Pro, but all of the X-Pros are powered by this 2.5. So this 2.5, like I said, naturally aspirated, 2.5 liters, 187 horsepower, and 178 pound-feet of torque. Now, all of that power is made at the tippy top of the tachometer, is made at 6,600 RPM. Your peak torque comes in a little bit lower at 4,000, but this is an engine that you will have to work a little bit. It is paired to an 8-speed torque converter automatic. Now, that hybrid model is going to give you more power, more torque, and it is paired to a turbocharged engine. We'll get to drive that in just a second, but the hybrid is 227 horsepower and about 258 pound-feet of torque, and that combines a turbocharged 1.6-liter Turbo 4 with your battery-powered electric motor. It gives you all-wheel drive, although you can have it as front-wheel drive, and you get more power, more torque, more fuel economy. Fuel economy-wise, with this 2.5 gas model, this is rated at 23 in the city, 28 on the highway. If you move to that hybrid model, you are rated at 38 city, 38 highway. Obviously, hybrids do their best work in low-speed city situations. We'll get into the hybrid in a bit, but those are your 2 drivetrains to start. This gas model is available now. These have been on sale for about 2 months. The hybrid and the plug-in hybrid will be coming later this year, they said toward the end of Q2. So stick around for those. Now, I mentioned this is Kia's top trim X-Pro package. This is a new trim line that they've introduced with the 2023 Sportage, and this is their most adventure-y, rugged, overlandy, all of America's going outdoors now, yay, trim level. So they have the X-Pro, and then below it the X-Line, which is for the rugged adventurer who doesn't need to go quite so far, and it's all kind of coming down to tires. So what they've done here with the X-Pro is pretty simple. They've added BFGoodrich all-terrain tires. They've done some other things. You've got heated washer nozzles, you've got some other different things inside, but the sole mechanical advantage that you have by choosing the X-Pro is going to be these tires. So that is how you get the furthest off-road with a 2023 Sportage. They've also optimized your drive modes to work a little further off-road, and they're optimized for this kind of a tire versus a highway tire. Now, you get more ground clearance with the X-Pro. It is 8.3 inches of ground clearance. However, it's the same amount of ground clearance on every Sportage if you choose all-wheel drive. The ground clearance truly comes in based on your drive wheels. If you have front-wheel drive, it's going to be lower. It's about 7.1 inches there. X-Pro is really just it's a wheel and tire package more than anything. There are no other mechanical changes here. You've still got open diffs. The drive modes are going to do all the work for you in software. They made no mention of skid plates or anything else. So you're going to go further off-road, but not too far. Now that being said, we are here. They've got a whole off-road course for us to drive through. So let's get behind the wheel of this 2023 Sportage X-Pro, see how this all works on some off-road challenges and obstacles. And then we'll get behind the wheel of the Sportage Hybrid and see how that is to drive. So it's important to mention as we get started here that we are, you know, we're not gonna be doing anything too wild. We're not like rock crawling in these Sportages, but we're doing what most people will do, which is to say, you know, lousy condition roads, some steep hill climbs and descents, probably some big ruts and some other, you know, obstacles kind of like that. So just a little clarity on, you know, where Kia has this thing focused. They're not saying this is an intense rock crawler. That's not the point of the Sportage or really anything they sell. I do wish they could do skid plates, because 8.3 inches of ground clearance I think is enough to give you confidence, and not quite enough to get over everything that you might encounter. So as we approach this first obstacle, this is a little hill climb that we're using to test the approach angle of the Sportage. We're also gonna look at the auto brake hold, so when you come off the brake onto the throttle, you've got some time there. It won't roll back, which is nice. For this whole course, we do have the center diff lock engaged, so it's preemptively locked. It is not waiting for like a slip and grip sort of situation. It's important to remember with a vehicle like the Sportage, especially the X-Pro on these all-terrains, the tires are doing a lot of the work here. That's not to discount the software that Kia has going on with the all-wheel drive, but the tires are also going to be helping out quite a bit. So some of this you will not be able to do in a regular Sportage on highway tires, like taking off from a stop here. That was made much easier by having the all-terrain tires.
And our car floor.
We're going down, we are tipping, and there we go.
Straighten the wheel, there we go.
And so as we go along here, we've done some uphill, some downhill. Kia's really showing off their traction management with the drive mode system, which has been, like I mentioned, calibrated for the all-terrain tires and, you know, more serious off-road situations that you would get versus, you know, a Sportage EX on highway tires. So nice to feel everything working, especially as you get a corner in the air. Obviously with a unibody like this, the way the suspension is set up, you're not going to have a ton of suspension flex ability like you would with, you know, something like a Jeep Wrangler, where the axles can move all over the place to really keep the wheels on the ground. So important to have traction management to really help you out. And as we go through this obstacle here, we are flexing diagonally, and this is something where the all-wheel drive software and the tires really help. This is a great way to figure out how good the software is. Nice and easy there, little throttle. I mentioned this doesn't have limited slip differential or locking differentials, no one's expecting it to, but the nice thing there is the all-wheel drive software still knows what to do if you get diagonal wheels up, you know, front, left, and right rear in the air. It can use the brakes to stop the spinning wheel and shoot the power to the other side of that axle. So nice and effective. Again, that comes entirely down to all-wheel drive software programming, plus of course the grip of the tires. As we get to this little hill climb, the whole point here is that they want to show off the front-facing camera. So the camera turns itself off above, I think, 5 miles an hour, but if I keep the speed here, right now, you can probably see, maybe, on the screen, I've got the 360 view, and then I've got both sides. If I poke this guy, though, I can look ahead. So there's my side view, there's my front view. So as we get up to these black banners here, the road is going to fall away. We're going to go down a hill, and having this front-facing camera, of course, is really nice to have. A lot of companies are doing these front-facing cameras. Went a little too fast. And it's nice because when you are like this, all I can see right now is sky and mountains. I can't see ahead of me, but I can look on the camera and know exactly where I'm going. So keep pointing straight, that's where the road goes, and obviously here we are. So going through these tight gates, this is, again, we're back at the camera view seeing both sides of the car, so you can see where your front wheels are, and then the 360 view also helps with this. This exercise is more to show off how the cameras down the sides of the car let you see really tight scenarios. Obviously this is important for on-road stuff as well, but very helpful off-road when you really can't see a whole lot. Nice and tight here. I've got some vague memories of autocrossing where I run over cones instead of going through them because that's who I am. Got a nice view here, and we're doing most of this just with the cameras. So that is pretty neat. So there's a quick little off-road tour through here. Obviously, this is not the most off-road capable vehicle in the whole wide world, but I think Kia does have a nice thing here between the tires and the programming. Like I said, a lot of this comes down to tire choice. So nice to see that they did pick an all-terrain, and you know, it's available at launch here. I do wish there was perhaps a little bit more hardware, but either way, you know, this is more than enough for most drivers in most scenarios. We've got it, you know, got it pretty crossed up in a lot of ways, and it was fine. So you just have to put all your faith in the tires and the software, and I think it can figure it out. Would I take this on some trails near me? Yeah, I would. I would try it. You would just have to be careful of the ground clearance because 8.3 inches sounds like a lot, but in some cases, you know, if you're dealing with rocks and things, like I said, there's no skid plates, so you do have to watch that a little more carefully. Just have a spotter. That's all you have to really worry about. So with that, let's get behind the wheel of the Sportage Hybrid and see how that is and talk about the on-road driving experience of both of these. All right, so we're driving and we are in the 2023 Sportage Hybrid now, and I've got a special guest. This is Drew from Car Confections.
Hello, hello.
So we've got drive partners for this, and that means it's fun. We get to meet new people, so that's been really exciting. But we drove out to the off-roading bit in the Sportage X-Pro, which is the naturally aspirated 2.5, and now we're driving back toward Palm Springs in the Hybrid. So interesting driving them back to back. I mean, power and drivetrain wise, like, where are you leaning? What are your thoughts between the two?
I really like the smoothness as well as the extra power of the hybrid model. Of course, the standard model is perfectly adequate for this type of vehicle. It's what you expect, right in line with, you know, the typical things, you know, the RAV4, CRV, stuff like that. Yeah, but the hybrid does give you additional power and, of course, additional advantages like the fuel economy factor. So that is pretty nice in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's interesting, like no one's buying anything in this segment for raw horsepower, you know, but the hybrid, I think, is just so much more the move if you can afford it. I think it adds like a couple grand at most versus the gas model, like equivalent spec for spec. And this is what, 227 horsepower and 258 pound-feet versus 187, 178. So it's a little bit more. And the interesting thing, I looked up curb weights on these, and they are not much heavier as hybrids.
Okay.
So I think in top spec SX Prestige for both, I think this is like 70 pounds more or something. So it is noticeably quicker compared to the 2.5. And the 2.5 needs to work to make all that power. Like coming up here, you were driving, it was like revving, you know, 5 grand up some of these hills.
Right, because of the steep hill, high altitude, having the electric power really helps you off the line. The turbocharger helps you at the high altitude.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with how this drivetrain is set up with this is a 1.6 turbo. The interesting thing is where the electric motor makes its peak torque is obviously from 0 to about 2,000, but the crossover point between the electric motor and the turbo gas motor, the torque peaks like overlap right at like 1,600. So you don't feel any loss in power when you're accelerating, which is really nice. So really, like good solid acceleration from it. All right, this is it. And it still has a 6-speed. It's a 6-speed automatic. It's not a CVT. So you do feel it and hear it change gears, which I don't know about you, I kind of like.
Yeah,
feels a little more traditional.
For sure.
Yeah, handling seems good. I think no one buying this is going to be like tossing it around through corners, but I think it's fine. The steering is a little dead to me. It's a little vague, but I think it's, again, in line with what you expect from RAV4, CR-V, Tucson, all that.
Right.
And then, like, we should talk interior because that matters to a lot of people, and, you know, creature comforts and all that. I think this is fabulous with the blue and white two-tone going on in this one. They've got some really cool color combos. I think some of the other cars in the test fleet here have, like, that brick red interior,
Yeah.
which is really neat. I think it's comfortable enough. I think the seats are comfy, which is nice. I don't know how you feel passenger seat versus driver, but everything seems pretty good.
Yeah, it feels nice and comfortable. You don't have any power adjustment on this model, at least the EX Hybrid for the passenger side.
A couple interesting new things. This car doesn't have the full 12-inch cluster going on. This is a different gauge cluster with, what'd you say, a 4-inch center screen?
Yeah, you can reconfigure that center 4.5-inch display, and then you get those like digital renderings out there on the side. I mean, it still looks sleek overall,
Yeah.
like how it blends together, but it's not like fully reconfigurable like that top-end 12-inch display.
I do like how it's kind of the two screens that kind of curve together, and I still think their infotainment is some of the best in the business. I don't know how you think it slots in, but I tend to like it.
Yeah, it's very easy to navigate. Speed is fine. Graphics look nice. The only thing for me that's like a consistent problem is that you don't have the wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay when you get the big screen, which is pretty much every version of the Sportage except for the very base models. Those are the ones that will have the 8-inch display and wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That's just kind of a weird thing, but all the whole Hyundai, Genesis, Kia lineups, they all have that weird issue, and I wish they would, get around to fixing that. But
yeah, I find that so fascinating, and I wonder if one of them was developed before the other, and they just haven't brought the one into the next era with all that, or what. But yeah, it's
just weird. It's
strange to me that on the lower tier, that's where you get technically the better system. Although I don't know, I don't mind plugging in because for long drives you want to keep the phone charged. But either way, yeah, it's weird that that's like not consistent across the board. Okay, so pricing wise, we should talk through that. So we just Drew has all the pricing on his phone because I can't remember it.
I'll just read it off. How about
so
that?
Yeah, let's just run through it.
LX front wheel drive. That one does come standard with front wheel drive. Most of the competition comes standard with all wheel drive.
Right.
So that does actually allow you to get to a little bit of a lower price point with this. So LX front wheel drive, $27,290 is the base price for that. EX comes standard with all wheel drive, $30,990, and then the SX Prestige all wheel drive, $36,190 for your fully loaded model.
So that's the fully loaded hybrid
model.
So one thing to point out is if you want the hybrid, you cannot get the X-Pro or the X-Line. You only have those 3 trims to pick from.
Right.
So I find it very fascinating, and I think some people may agree, some people may disagree. I find it really fascinating that you can't get a hybrid as the top X-Pro trim, because to me, this is the superior drivetrain to have. And I like all the X-Pro goodies, even though if I bought one of these, I would never go very far off-road. But
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the plug-in hybrid is going to have X-Line trim level.
yeah, and they said that the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid should be showing up end of Q2, so soon enough. By the time people see this, they'll be on the way to dealers not too long after. I am way more into the hybrid than the 2.5 car. The off-roading was really fun. It's cool that they've built in all that capability to me, but this hybrid drivetrain, if I'm not mistaken, this is shared with the Tucson hybrid in its entirety, and I just think this is so good that this is the one that I lean so heavily toward. All right, and that is it for this first drive, first impressions of the 2023 Kia Sportage, both the X-Pro and the Hybrid. Thank you so much for coming along on this very windy day. As always, if you like what we're up to, please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe right here on YouTube. Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at @OutMotorsports. And if you'd like to join a community of fellow LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, head on over to outmotorsports.com. We have a whole community over there, and we would love to get to know you. That is it for this one. Until next time, please stay safe, be well. See you again soon.